News First reached yet another milestone by conducting its Centenary Media Workshop for school students. The News First team commemorated the Centenary Media Workshop at the Pinnawala National School this morning.
The News First team, led by the senior management of the MTV MBC Media Networks, were extended a warm welcome by students and teachers of the Pinnawala National School. The ceremony to commemorate the 100th Media Workshop conducted by News First began with the lighting of the traditional oil lamp.
සියවෙනි වැඩසටහන විදියට පින්නවල මධ්‍ය මහා විද්‍යාලයේ මගේ පින්වත් දරු පිරිස ඊයේ
The students at the Pinnawala Central College gained a wealth of knowledge from the 100th Media Workshop conducted by News First. They were taught how to become excellent communicators in the media industry. The students were educated on how to compile and present a news report. The people who have appeared on Sirosa TV since its inception spoke to us yesterday.
මම නම සඳහන් නොකළ සිරස ආයතනයේ ආරම්භයේ සිට දක්නට ලැබෙන ප්‍රධාන මුහුණු ටික ඊයේ කතා කරා.
Principals and students from schools where News First had previously held media workshops attended the ceremony as special guests. A student from an invited school performed a song that was enjoyed by everyone. The News First Outreach website and the News First Classroom web page were launched by Channel Head of News First, Siobhan Daniel. You, our viewers, can access the News First Outreach website and the News First Classroom web page via our official website www.newsfirst.lk. Our aim was to visit schools and explain the dynamics of communication, how the media can be used and how to engage with the media. This is not an easy task. Although we completed the 100th workshop yesterday, you wouldn't believe it, but we spent 300 days to conduct 100 workshops. I have a message from our channel head. The chairman and staff of the Capital Maharaja organization has informed us that this workshop should be conducted for 500 phases.
අපි කවදාවත් යම්කිසි ඉලක්කයක් සම්පූර්ණ කරාම පස්සේ
Once we achieve a certain goal, we do not relax and rest on our laurels. We decide to expand our goal at that very moment and try to achieve it. That is what we have done here today. With the leadership of our chairman, we have all come from very humble beginnings. But with perseverance, you can achieve anything. That is also our message to you today.
විශේෂත්වය තමයි අපේ සභාපතිතුමාගේ නායකත්වයෙන් අපි හැමෝම එන්නේ ඉතාමත්ම පොඩි තැන් වලින්.
මම මේ කාරණාව කියන්න හේතුව දැන් මේ මෙතන ඉන්නේ සාමාන්‍ය පෙළ උසස් පෙළ දරුදරියන්. හෙට අනිද්දාට ඕගොල්ලෝ සමාජයට
There are students studying in the ordinary level and advanced level who are present here today. You will one day leave school and face society. Once you enter society, you're human resource. If human resources cannot be managed efficiently, then it will be of no use to the country despite the advances in technology and science.
මානව සම්පත පාවිච්චි හරි විදියට කළමනාකරණය කරගන්න බැරි වුණොත් අපිට ලෝකෙ දිනන්නවත් අපිට අපිව දිනන්නවත් හම්බෙන්නේ නැහැ.
A News First card containing emergency telephone numbers was launched today. A special memento was presented to News First by the Pinnawala National School.
Taking a look at one of our headline-making stories this evening. It has been reported that Mohamed Morsi, former Egyptian president, is being held at a military facility after the army suspended the constitution. Let's now cross over to News First Zulfiq Farzan, who is standing by at the newsroom to give us the very latest on this story.
In the latest development, top Egyptian judge Adli Mansour has been sworn in as the new Egyptian interim president hours after Mohamed Morsi was overthrown. Now News First Shamir Wazuldin filed this report earlier in the day.
When it was finally confirmed that the military was back in charge, Tahrir Square, the scene of Egypt's revolution a little over 2 years ago, erupted. Once again, a movement sparked by the country's youth has led to the overthrow of a leader. Protests organized by anti-Morsi supporters had been calling for the country's first democratically elected president, Mohamed Morsi, to go for days. Demonstrators listened to where they could to hear the Minister of Defense, who was flanked by political, religious and social leaders, announce that Morsi was no longer in power.
We were hopeful about achieving a national dialogue that would end the violence and secure stability to the Egyptian people, but the statement made by the president last night, which was broadcast before the 48 hours deadline, was not responsive to the demands of the people, and this has forced the armed forces to hold talks with some of the national and political figures as well as the youth. During the talks, the attendees agreed on a roadmap which included initial measures aimed at building a strong and united Egyptian society and ending the violence and the conflict in the country.
General Abdel Fattah al-Sisi announced several steps for the immediate future of the new government. They are suspending and rewriting the constitution, parliamentary and presidential elections to be held at a later but an undetermined date. And he announced the name of an interim head of state. His name is Adli Mansour, the head of the country's Supreme Constitutional Court, and was told would be sworn in on Thursday. Now he could serve 9 to 12 months in an interim fashion. In the Nazar city, where thousands of Morsi supporters gathered, there was anger and frustration. Many, after hearing that Morsi was out, swore to protect their country. Morsi's whereabouts are not known. However, in an address posted on the internet to his supporters, he said that a full coup had taken place against him and the people. Many from his party, the Muslim Brotherhood, has been arrested and arrest warrants issued for many more. Anti-Morsi demonstrators are not calling this a coup. The leaders are going overboard, saying, "How can you call this a coup? This is simply the will of millions of people being implemented." According to foreign journalists on the ground, this latest incident has gripped, divided and hurt Egyptian people. And those divisions played out violently in the streets of Alexandria. Egypt's army, which has maintained a grip of the country since 1952, made its presence felt on the streets of Egypt. And again, by the latest developments, it is evident that 2 years after the revolution, it remains to be the most powerful voice in Egyptian politics. Shamir Wazuldin, News First.
What is the Muslim Brotherhood which Mohamed Morsi belongs to? News First takes a look. The Muslim Brotherhood has been part of the political scene in Egypt for more than 80 years. It was formed by Hassan al-Banna in 1928. In the 1980s, the group disavowed violence and attempted to join the mainstream political process. In December 2011, its political party, the Freedom of Justice Party, dominated parliamentary elections. Its candidate, Mohamed Morsi, contested the 2012 presidential elections and eventually became the first democratically elected president of Egypt. News First contacted the Sri Lankan ambassador in Egypt for details.
Actually, what happened last night at about last evening at about 7 p.m. at Cairo time, the Chief of Armed Forces, General Sisi, made an announcement saying that the regime, the regime failed to heed to the calls of the majority of people. Therefore, army is intervening and to take charge of the country. Yeah, it is subject to interpretation. I cannot say this is coup or is kind of a popular will has been imposed in the country. But as far as I can see a wider support from all over Egypt towards the present arrangement which has been put in place by military.
Dr. Dayan Jayatilaka is a former Sri Lankan diplomat. Speaking to News First, he expressed these views about what he thinks on the crisis in Egypt.
Well, it was not democratic as a method of removal of an administration, but it is not a pure military coup. It's not a simple military coup. It is, in a way, another chapter of the unfolding Egyptian revolution, which overthrew President Mubarak. The people of Egypt had a certain vision of the country when they overthrew the dictatorship. Now, President Morsi represented the religious majority. So the military, possibly for its own reasons, intervened at a moment of civil conflict to arbitrate between these two visions of Egypt. And they have not seized power. That is why it's not a classic military coup. They have not seized power. They have handed over to an interim administration.
Egyptian politics. Where will it turn next? The News First International Desk will keep a close watch.